person next to you. Take a look at the person next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, I bow to you. Feel the love and the unity. Feel the love and the unity. Let your voice repeat after me. We come together. 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 In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. We come together. Come together. We come together. In the name of love.
Welcome, everyone here in the room. And those of you joining us online, whether you're joining us on Facebook Live or on YouTube at our CSLGH YouTube live stream, you are most welcome. And thank you for joining us this morning. And thank you for joining us, Reverend Nancy Woods, our assistant minister, here joining us this morning. And I'll let Ken introduce our musical guests later, but we're going to start by taking a deep conscious breath and just release, just allow ourselves to just surrender into this moment, to melt into this moment as we come together for our service, which we call Lighting the Flames of Faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. Now, fundamental to this truth is a unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Reverend Nancy lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle to honor shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. The third candle we light for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. The sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. The 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space that we hold for them here at our center, with our spiritual community online, and within our own hearts. So as Reverend Nancy lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
There is one flame that burns in our hearts. There is one light that shines through our love.
We light this flame with faith.
We light this flame with faith.
We find this light within our own soul. There is one flame, one light within.
So it is with love and appreciation we acknowledge that flame, that light within each and every one. Acknowledge that divine presence that brought life forth itself is the essence of our being. It is that which guides and directs our life so that we may be more aware of the love, the beauty, the joy, and the wondrous expression of life in all our experiences and all that we do, say, or express. So as we open our minds and hearts this morning to expand this experience, because it is an infinite present, to step into a greater understanding of it, to be aware that it is always with us, in us, and through us, that it is that health that we are seeking, it is that joy that we are reaching for, it is in each and every aspect of being. And as we know this and understand that, we know that this hour that we spend together, it comes through in expression, in the music that we hear, the message that is shared. The time that we have together is truly an acknowledgement that the divine is always given to us by giving through us. And it is all minds, all consciousness that is having this experience that reaches out for the greatness that it pours forth in every aspect of our time together. So it's with appreciation and embracing the idea that the law of the universe is forever saying yes to us according to the thoughts and understanding that we place in it. So these words are the words of truth that we are acknowledging together. And we do so as I invite each and every one of you to acknowledge with me as we say, and so it is, and amen. You know, each Sunday we are share from our hearts here about our belief and our understanding of the spiritual presence of life. And we acknowledge that each and every path that is leading to that truth is to be chosen by each and every individual. To be able to understand this and embrace it. To reach out to each other in all ways from our heart. This wondrous experience of being with ourselves allows us to kind of meditate on that idea and to see it as the truth. And as I am so sure that this truth is bringing itself into a greater expression of being. Because as all of us in this world, and it's not just one country or one group or one, it is all beings, animals included, everything is being called to its greatest and highest expression of being. So I feel like right now I'm in a place of celebrating, because I think that this truth is coming to the head. It is coming into fruition. It is being caught up in the love, the sense of reaching out and touching everyone. And I believe that the time has come in which we are able to acknowledge that we are one being with very, very, very varied and many ways of expression. So it's with a heart that says yes to life and yes to everybody out there, because I know the oneness of life that I'm experiencing is the oneness that is in everybody. And that is a glorious, joyous, dynamic, great expression of being alive and knowing it. With all these truths, I say thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being around me. And thank you for being who and what you are. And thank you for letting me share that.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing great. Today, I'm very thrilled because we have a special guest coming to us today all the way from the other side of the room. Please welcome Miss Lily Passero.
Hi. Took my love, took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills, till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? I don't know. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older. I'm getting older too. So well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older. Take my love, take it down. Climb a mountain and turn around. If you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, the landslide brought me down. And if you see my reflection in snow-covered hills, well, the landslide brought me down. Oh, the landslide brought me down.
That's lovely.
Amazing. Made me think of me dear old Uncle Terry in Lake Tahoe days. That was beautiful.
That
Thank you,
was
Lily.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. It's so beautiful. Oh, perfect for right now. Thank you. Oh, so now, would y'all stand? Oh, listen, I think I'm still in church now, right?
I'll stand up if you want.
Yeah, I'm standing.
All right, so just say with me the Declaration of Principles. You can still sit on your couch,
Or in bed.
in bed, wherever you are. So, we believe in one universal spirit manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe the universal spirit is personal too and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe our faith operates upon a law of mind, which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life, in the mortality of the individual soul, forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all.
We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be.
Very nice. So I was thinking about that song while I'm listening to you sing it, because I When that song came out, I was in my early 20s. And Stevie Nicks is probably in her late 60s by now. And I bet she sings it a lot different today. Right? It's hard to believe that a woman, a young person in her 20s, wrote such a poignant song. Right? And to have the awareness of saying, hey, I'm afraid of changing because I've built my whole life around this way that I know the world, right? And so there are many ways in which that can be kind of a daunting thing, whether it's starting a new career, getting married, having babies, finishing college, or stepping into a way of living where we're listening to our hearts, which maybe we're not used to doing, right? Particularly those of us in the West who are so, many of us have such strong technical training in the scientific method and in thinking rationally and so forth. And so, I should just speak for myself, that's kind of a safe place to hang out because that's in the head. Right? Now, I guess it depends on what I'm thinking about, whether or not it's safe or not, right? But the idea that it's safer than the heart, because in order to listen to the heart, we have to soften up. And that's takes some effort for many of us, and I'm going to guess at least half the population, because there's half of us are men. So we have to kind of learn how to think that way unless we've been raised to embrace that. And of course, that's a whole cultural thing that gets into a whole another realm of thinking. But I think that we could all agree that there is this aspect of life that has, within the culture, that there's a lot of stuff that's downloaded into us that we really haven't reasoned our way into. And that when we access the heart, then we can start to kind of pick in a much more conscious way. We can kind of pick and choose the things and to explore truth as we know truth to be. And there's no more important place to do this than within our spiritual practice. So for some of us, that means exploring other modalities, other methods, like a Vipassana retreat, right? Like exploring Hinduism as we are doing this month. So, and also, like we can't really get away from this. This is the first Memorial Day weekend that I have been here at the center in years, because I'm usually up at Lake Arrowhead doing a retreat with Dr. Moira Fox and others with our friends at the Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living. So Memorial Day has always been a very poignant thing for me because I did grow up in the service, and I grew up mostly out at Edwards Air Force Base. And in the lobby of the base, they used to call it Chapel 1, I don't know what they call it now, but it's down near the flight line. And there used to be this big board that had a bronze plaque for all the test pilots and some NCOs who were killed while flying test aircraft there at Edwards. Because what they do there is, while they take airplanes and try to fly them so hard to almost make them crash, but sometimes they do. And that board was a lot bigger the last time I saw it than when I lived there and served Mass in that chapel so many years ago. So it's a very poignant thing that strikes close to home. And of course, today, Memorial Day, we include not only those who have fallen in wars, but those who have fallen in service to their country in the myriad of ways that people do this, for instance, in law enforcement or our fire services, whether it's here at LA City or LA County Fire, but even those who do our forest fires to help ensure that we have keep our resources intact, our first responders, and now, of course, with this plague that has got a temporary grip on the world, that we are seeing our first line people who are nurses and doctors, people who are knowingly putting themselves at risk, but also all the people who support all of that. I mean, the most important person in the hospital right now is the janitorial staff. They absolutely can't do their job. And so how many of us have really raised that seemingly lowly job to the level of respect that really it deserves, because they're the first line of public health. So I think we're all learning to appreciate a lot of things about life, and also the way that life changes in this period. So, and now that I'm completely off the mark, so our theme for the month is listen to our hearts, right? To listen to our heart. And I just wanted to give you a picture. Here's the old homestead. It's still standing, and we're still here. And this is a photograph from a couple of weeks ago. So, it's looking good. And so thank you for your continued financial support in keeping all this thing together. And, we're going to come together eventually when it makes sense, right? But the church is not a building. We don't have to come together physically in order to do church. And at the same time, we're going to appreciate it when we are able to come back together in a way that makes sense. We're going to appreciate it that much more. So starting next Sunday, we'll start clearing some of these chairs out so you can get used to seeing what it's going to look like to come back to church, because it's not going to be like we knew it before, not in the beginning. So, and then we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. So, our today's talk titled, The Great Work of Your Life, and of course it is Memorial Day weekend, so we get to move from the living room to the bedroom and have a day trip, I guess. And then, and to consider this, that when the vision is clear, and when considering our life, when the vision is clear, the decision is easy. And at that point then, surrender is the key, that we want to let our faith be a lamp unto our feet. That God goes before us and makes the crooked ways straight, that we are open to divine guidance, and so it's up to us then to trust it. Right? And then what is the Tao of our life? What is the path? What is the calling? So this month's exploration is an exploration of Dharma, a multifaceted experience of life that has calling and vocation in it, intermixed with a yearning for connection to the deepest aspects of life experience. That Dharma has within it an expression of true, unconditional love, a love expressing in, through, and as a flow of circulation, a law of circulation, if you will, that permeates all phases of life in ways that we are both conscious and unconscious of. And so in this way, then, the Dharma has a path to it. And so I was up at O'Melveny this week, and this is the grotto path for those of you who are familiar with it. So it comes here, and it winds down, and then it has this incredibly steep part that when you get to the middle of it, you go, every time, why did I come this way? And isn't our life like that sometimes, right? But even when we are on the path of our Dharma, our calling, our vocation, there are going to be steep bits in it. Or frankly, it's not much of a calling. Yes? Yes. So, so Dharma has a path to it. If our life is the map, our higher self then is the compass. It is our skill of working with the self that keeps us on the straight and narrow. The higher self, or spirit, if you like, is the lamp unto our feet. Now, for some, finding their way to this path is relatively easy. Not that it does not still have struggle or challenge in its pursuit. And pursuit isn't really the right word anyway, because there's a pull to it as well. The ease is that for some, their Dharma path, their Dharma insights have a direct route to it. It has no question, there's no question about the direction that we want our life to go to. This has not been my experience, but I have witnessed some who have lived that way. They just knew what they were going to do at a young age, and they followed it with all their gusto. So in this book that we've been working with, The Great Work of Your Life, Stephen Cope shares the story of the naturalist Jane Goodall, the anthropologist and primate expert. I'm sure there's a better word for it, but it's escaping me. Now, for Jane, from the earliest days, she had a deep fascination with nature and animals. And she also had within her a fascination and a yearning to go to Africa. Now, this is, why is this such a big deal? Is because she grew up in England, in London, in fact, which is not like Africa. If you've ever been there, it's cold and it's wet. If you've been to Seattle, that's almost like it, okay? So it's cold, wet, and damp, and when you go to bed at night, you hope there's flannel sheets. It's that kind of cold. So, and so she wanted to go to Africa, and she loved animals, but she got her training as a secretary. And so Cope is a great writer, and he describes this whole process because she still had this yearning to go to Africa. And so what she did was she used her training as a secretary to go to Kenya, and she got a job as a secretary, I guess a pretty mundane job by all descriptions, and she moved to Nairobi. And while in Nairobi then contacted Dr. Leakey. So Leakey, if you may recall, is a guy who was digging around in the Rift Valley looking for early signs of man. And he had this whole, at that time, a very kind of novel idea that men came from apes. And so he was looking for, I shouldn't say, I misstated that men and apes came from a common ancestor. And so he was looking for and found, if you remember, Lucy and the fossil. And so anyway, Jane became fascinated with all of that, and then Leakey became fascinated with her. So she went out. She had no backing, by the way. She had no training. She had no college degree in anthropology. There was none of that going on. Just this call to go to Africa and this call to work for Dr. Leakey, which she eventually did. And then in their working together, she found that he needed someone to study primates to see how they interacted and so forth. And so she went to this remote place to study chimpanzees. Now, the thing that's interesting about that, there are many obstacles that were put in place, including a cultural one, because young women in Britain did not travel abroad alone, for one. You needed to have a chaperone to come with you, because she would have been in her early 20s. And in fact, you couldn't get the permits to come to Kenya without it. So not only did she have to answer the call, but then she also had to talk her mom into coming along with her. So there's actually two Dharma stories going on here, right? So there's Jane's calling to go to Africa, and then there's Jane's mother's calling to be a supportive mother. Now, I can't imagine the conversations that were going on in order to make all that happen, because this was a very arduous and difficult path, and yet the calling was there and heeded by both Jane and her mother. So her mother, this English woman, would stay in a tent on her own while Jane would go out and spend, for days and nights at a time to do her observations. And Cope is pointing this out to sometimes we have a direct bead on what our calling to life is, what our vocation is, that there's something within it early on that has that childlike energy and enthusiasm that allows us to grab onto both horns and just ride it wherever it takes us. And that's exactly what Jane did as a primatologist, but it's also what her mother did in her calling to be a mom, which I just find a very interesting story. But most of us find our Dharma in a much more indirect way. And so he uses the story of Brian to illustrate this, he being Stephen Cope. Now Brian was it's kind of an old story in Catholicism, particularly in Ireland, that if you have a bunch of kids, a bunch of sons, one of them's going to be a priest. And within his family, it was actually a tradition that each generation sent someone to the priesthood. And so what that meant for Brian is that he was the guy. And it was difficult for Brian. In fact, apparently it was impossible for Brian to say no, because it was something that was embedded into him in the culture of his family. It was something that was very important to his mother. He talked to a nun about whether or not he had a vocation or a calling or not when he was in Catholic school. And of course, the nun, being a nun, would say, well, to give your life to God. This is, and apparently he had a skill set that lent itself to being a priest. That because there has to be, in order to serve, there has to be a calling of some kind within that. But my point is that there was a seeming conspiracy to get this young boy and then a young man into the priesthood. But what he really loved was music. It was a deep love of his life, we're told. That he still has the toy organ that he received as a kid. And that he was one of those guys that he not only liked the organ, but he would set up his little stuffed animals and he would conduct a chorus while he played the organ, and apparently still has this organ in his childhood home up in the closet still to this day. This is what he really wanted to do. But at age 45 and after 5 years of antidepressants, right, the guy was just miserable. And so eventually he left the priesthood. So his calling was not in alignment with his Dharma. So what Cope is talking about is all of us have within us this gift that some of us have allowed to let loose early on, right? So I think of artists when I think of this, like, David Bowie back in the Ziggy Stardust days. For those who don't know, it was like the glam rock thing, which was very controversial at the time. And right here you have this guy from a working class place in England, which is kind of a big deal, and he's wearing all this makeup, but he's writing really good songs and making really good music, right? So that kind of an artist who is so sure of themselves that they know for sure that this is the path that I'm going. And I'm using artistic expression because this is a very heart-filled thing, right? So it's one thing for Paul Allen and Bill Gates to be called into writing code, and that's what they did in their high school years, spending thousands and thousands of hours writing computer code. But you got a pretty good idea that you're going to get a job when you're on the back end of that. But as an artist putting it all out there, not so much. So how do you stay true to your Dharma and ignore the naysayers? I was watching, I saw that movie Rocket Man with Elton John, the story of Elton John, which was like, a lot more West Side Story than I cared for. But the story itself was really quite amazing. Again, here's this young guy, he's got some talent, he's got some flair, and how to stick with that in spite of all the ridicule that he was receiving in his most inner circle. Or a dentist that I know, that I was talking to once, who lamented that it was a 17-year-old kid who decided what he was going to do for his whole life. Because now he was a dentist, and he didn't really care for it much. He liked the money, he liked the life that he had, but he didn't really care for, he used to call himself, I'm basically a plumber and a plumber and a plasterer, is what he used to joke about himself. So the point is that Cope is making here that it's far better to fail at our own Dharma than to succeed in the Dharma of someone else, right? That when we are following our karma, our Dharma, there is this aspect of joy within it that is pulling us along into it, regardless of how difficult it might be at times and challenging that it may be, and also a conscious recognition that this is what I should be doing. Now, this implies then that a Dharma calling has within it a cultivation, that we need to make it welcome, and that this welcoming is done in consciousness first. So our job, as Cope says, is to make choices that create the right conditions for Dharma to flourish. That this gift that I was speaking of, that spark, that childlike enthusiasm, that this really is indestructible. And so he's illustrating that by presenting these stories, because it just never goes away, right? That it is a seed, so that we are not required to be God. We are not required to create the seed, only plant it wisely and well. That's a little bit different than the religious science component, because we teach that every thought is a seed that impresses itself upon the law of mind, which is the mind of God, to produce effect. However, you can see where he's getting at here, that this gift is almost a cosmic seed that's implanted within the soul, that has within it the truth of our calling, the truth of our being. So unless you feel confident that you are on the direct path, the direct Dharma path, which is that you are generally happy, fulfilled with life, and has some challenge within it to keep it interesting. If you're one of those, then congratulations. For the rest of us, we have a little bit of work to do. And so we need to go within. We need to go within and find the answer. And this is why we're constantly stressing a meditation and contemplative time and prayer, that we need time and this silence to take inventory of our gifts and talents, that they are reflected in our life somewhere and in some way. So what is it that you did as a child that made your eyes bright, that may be missing now? Connect with that gift, and the path will make itself known. So many of us are at our home alone right now, or within our families, and there's so much stuff going on online that we can explore all of these things that up until now we may not have had the time to do. And so there's a unique opportunity in this to identify what is that spark within you that has that we just have not given permission maybe to express itself. Because as Holmes says, there is within ourselves the answer to every question, the solution of every problem. That spirit makes the demand and will answer that demand from within. That when we allow ourselves to wait for the mental storm to die down. Mental storm to die down. So that could just mean that, not that we're angry or resentful in some way, but just that the mind is a very busy place, as Mr. Guenco would say. To be still and know is the secret of guidance, as it is of every problem of life. That a perturbed mind then can never get the answer, a stilled mind always can, because the answer comes from the spirit within. So Kenny Loggins would say it this way, that trust what is bringing you joy. It's taking you someplace. So when we get that thing, our bliss point, our calling, we do it full out, whether it be a vocation or avocation, that which we do for our daily bread or that which we are called to do just for the sake of doing it. Because we never know where that bliss point is going to show up. So one more example. I have a buddy, had a strong marriage, had a life that had some challenges in it, but he had work that he liked, that he was respected in. His kids were established, grandkids on the way, and through a series of circumstances was able to pursue skiing in a way that had mastery and even some travel in it. So that when the opportunity presented itself, I don't even know if he was aware of how much this was calling to him, but he was all in, which led to a connection with alpine living generally for him and his family, which they are still enjoying today. So underneath all of this, of course, is faith in that higher power, spirit, the self, Christ consciousness, call it whatever name you have within whatever name you have for it within your own understanding of the divine. Whatever name you give it is not near as important as your relationship to it. That there must be a surrender, or maybe even perhaps a melting into it. Recognizing that if God is everywhere present, it must be right where you and I are right now. Nearer than breathing, closer than hands and feet. So let's just take a deep breath for a moment and just recognize that we are now open and receptive in a new way that maybe up until now has been unavailable to us to step into a field of infinite possibilities for good, an infinite thought field of possibilities for good, where we call forth that place within us, that flame of the divine, that divine spark that is the wellspring of joy, that we bring this forth and allow it to inform our conscious mind as to what the next great step is, that we step into this field of infinite possibilities for good, that we confidently make itself known, that we allow ourselves to be pulled by the vision even as we step into the next thing to do, that we know that within all of it is an infinite power, infinite presence, the infinite heart of the divine longing to make itself known by means of our life and by means of the lives around us. And that's a good thing. And so it is.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Oh, so take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Oh, so take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you, for I can't help falling in love with you.
Thank you. That's Miss Lily. Forgot your last name, Lily.
Passero.
Oh, that's right. Lily Passero. Lovely, isn't it? Yes, all right. And I'm going to do that. That's a little better than looking at our white walls, right? All right. So it's that time in our service where we're going to ask you to participate in the offering. So there are many ways to do this. For those of you who've been on with us for a while, you know, on our YouTube channel, there's an icon over here that will take you over to the PayPal account. And once you get to the PayPal account, or you get on our website, you'll see a little donate button. So whether you're on the YouTube channel or here on our website, it'll take you to this screen, which is our PayPal portal. So some have been asking, is there a way to get around PayPal? There really isn't. So we appreciate you using this. And if you use this button, this lower button here, you can use your debit or credit card. Now, if you have a PayPal account, then you know you can set up a recurring donation using your PayPal account. And if you're up for doing that, that would be awesome. And but we have, and then if you're using your phone, it's the same idea. You'll find that, you scroll down a few times, you'll find the donate button. It'll take you to this same portal, make your donation. Use as many zeros to the left of the decimal as you dare to. And okay, and then here's where the icon for PayPal is on the YouTube channel. Nice, I didn't know you had that slide on there. Thanks, Mike. And then, of course, if you want to continue to mail in your donations, as many have, and we have them here today, so we can do that. We can bless these as we go into our offering song. And of course, the best way to support the center is, and the easiest way for you, is to use your bank account's bill pay feature. It's free to you, it's free to us, and they come in forms that look like this. So they just mail us a little check, and then we can place it here in the offering basket. So let's take a deep, conscious breath as we take a moment to donate in our various modalities.
Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit gives through us, Spirit receives through us, Spirit lives and breathes through us. Spirit lives and breathes through us. Spirit gives through us. Spirit receives through us. Spirit lives and breathes through us. Spirit lives and breathes through us.
Nice. So going within for just a moment longer, recognizing and knowing that the gifts presented here in the basket or through online giving or through bill pay or the various ways that we practice generosity, that all of it is a demonstration of consciousness of the individual that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And so through the generous heart from which these gifts have been offered, we representing, whether here in the room or online, that we accept these gifts with deep love and respect, as we know together they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless the vision and mission and dharma of this center, if you will, and the dharma of anyone watching here currently, that we extend this blessing to our friends in our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, that for our planet as well, that we know that all of it in some crazy cosmic way is an expression from the mind of the divine itself that knows only to say yes to all of life. And so we just revel in our part in that as we raise not only the lives of ourselves using this infinite power, but we raise the lives of those around us as well. And that's a good thing. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. So thank you for joining us. If you are a member of our center, you'll know that how to get on to our fellowship call or Zoom call afterwards. If you would like to join us and you are on YouTube, just send me a message on YouTube and I'll send you the contact info. We got Zoom bombed before, so we're not doing that again, so by having it up everywhere. But you're certainly welcome to join us, particularly if you are watching and are a first-time visitor. You can come in and meet some folks, and I will be on in about 15 minutes to do that. So please help me thank Miss Lily Passarello?
No, Passero.
Passero. Is it? Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm really grateful, though, that you're here. Does that count?
So am I. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. It was really quite lovely. And a very sweet having you guys do it together. Because I think that's a favorite song of another loving couple that I know.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, so very sweet. All right. So thank you, Reverend Nancy. Come on up, pray us out. I'll stop talking, and you can go get a snack before fellowship. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being here.
So I invite each one of you to join me as we take our consciousness within and just know that this place that is within each one of us is that oneness with Source, that oneness with the awareness and wisdom of the universe. And that it has brought us to this place in this time and this energy that we are sharing together, that we may be taken into a high level of expression, a vibration of experience in life itself. And know that we are experiencing a sense of gratitude and appreciation for the beautiful music that we have experienced, for the word that has been shared with us, and all that has come forth in this hour together. Knowing that it has taken us to a place in awareness where we step from this place into a consciousness in which we are able to appreciate and enjoy and embrace our own inner self, as well as our lives of where we are from this moment and from this moment forward. Recognizing that this love that we have acknowledged today is always with us. So it is with appreciation for all of you, for all of the ones here at this center, appreciation for the unity and the knowing of the truth, that we say thank you, and we let it be. But there's a law that is saying yes to us right here, right now. And together we say, so it is, and so be.
Please join us at home with the peace song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
To be with God.
Hey, you guys have a good week, huh? Stay strong, stay healthy.